Hey everyone. So the first major thing to talk about with this episode is we get the reveal of the man behind the curtain, the one in control of the satellite, a roboticized Dr. Muller. And the thing to really take note about this reveal, aside from proving even further how much of a psychopath Muller is, would be the timing of it. Obviously, right out of the gate, with Dr. Muller back, like, a lot of demons are getting stirred up. Getting stirred up inside Hermit. She's having to face her demons once again, I will say right now, once this is over, she is coming out of this a much stronger person. Like, the fact that she's facing down Muller at long last again, it's like she is going to be an emotionally stronger person after this. But even outside of Hermit, though, and within context of the story, this reveal just so happens to come around the time where Clean is having an emotional breakdown as well, and because of that, you can pretty much connect the dots of who's responsible for that trauma. And while just imagining any numerous scenarios of what he did to the Rutherford siblings is terrifying in itself, I am going to save my discussion for what happened for when we do get the reveal, because it's pretty fucked up, and that's kind of the problem. Because while they did do the scene of Drac and Joe shooting Shiki and even Schur's like introduction like extremely well, and they did do those scenes justice. What Muller did to those to the Rutherford siblings is a whole different ballgame, and without giving away like too much more, let's just say it is the most gruesome thing you could pretty much do to children on the planet. And because of that, like, again, I don't want to say that the anime is gonna completely censor things, but I think the best we can hope for is kind of a still image of the scene in question. So because of that, like, I think we can only hope that moving from Netflix to Crunchyroll had some kind of effect on giving the leeway of how much is censored. And I know I'm making a big fuss out of something that we don't know yet, but this is the thing with Eden Zero. It does need to be this excessively violent and excessively dramatic and just absolutely traumatic at times, because in order to just get the full impact of a moment. And again, I worry we might not get that here, mainly because of what Muller did to both Clean and Jin at the time. With that said, though, obviously the more immediate thing to talk about with Muller's reveal, though, is, again, it's giving Hermit absolute trauma. But because of this, she is giving her a chance to face a lot of those demons from her past in regards to Muller. And I will say, how this plays out, I really like it, but it's how it ends that's tonally a little finicky to me. That's all I'm gonna say. But moving on from Muller, though, the episode itself actually opens with Rebecca finally defeating Brittany, but in the process of doing so, her powers have gotten stronger to an extent where she supposedly has greater control of how far back in time she can travel. Now, rather than just rolling the dice and hoping she lands at the point in time she needs. Of course, this does allow her to defeat Brittany using a vacuum cleaner. Yeah, I've got no words for that other than it was funny in the manga, and it's even funnier in the anime. And honestly, for as goofy as the idea is, on a basic level of logic, it does make sense that would be the best way to defeat her, because Brittany is smoke, and, well, how do you get smoke and dust in? You vacuum it up. I do admit, though, this is kind of one of those things where, while I'm not going to say it doesn't come back into play, the whole thing with Rebecca's powers, it is also one of those things where, beyond this point, this specific kind of improvement to her power isn't used all that much beyond this point, but I think the more important part about this that it's trying to get across is she's actually turned a corner and actually learning to control her powers. I think that is more or less, I believe, the main idea of what's going on here. I also like how we do see her actually taking the time to test and control this new development in her powers, rather than just waiting for episodes later to see her develop it. Like it's like it's one of those things where I do appreciate Mashima at the time for like actually like, no, we're doing we might be in the middle of a bit of a crisis, but we're doing this now. It needs to happen now, kind of thing. Because if she doesn't get stronger, then what's the point in facing more enemies now? More enemies if she's just going to be weaker. I also really like how we learned there is a dangerous feedback loop to her using this power, though, and how even only using it a few times is an enormous strain on Rebecca's body. And all that said, I do want to talk a little bit about the adaptation of this episode itself, because although it did adapt the manga pretty faithfully, I should also take note of the fact that there were certain parts where they cut around the edges, so to speak, in the sense where there are certain in-between panels that were cut from this episode of the adaptation. It's nothing all that noticeable or anything major that's lost, just little things like a little bit extra build-up on a little bit of extra build-up on like Muller's reveal, or even when we get introduced to Beast Commando Team, Beast Commando Unit 1, I think is it. There was a little bit more of again build up to from their reveal, but it just kind of cut to them at that point. But yeah, of course, moving on from all that though, we have to talk about Shiki and his encounter with Justice at the end of the episode. And admittedly, even though I have come around to Justice as a character in recent years, this is one moment where I still can just not get behind him. The moment he captures Shiki, I'm like, seriously, dude, there's a lot of important things going on, and your first, right now, that need to be dealt with, and your first instinct is to capture Shiki, a guy with, admittedly, the power to actually help you. Especially reveal that there's another Beast Commando unit on the planet. Like, in that situation, you gotta utilize all resources and people you have, even the ones you see as evil. But it's like, it's whatever, you do you, Justice. Like, holy shit. Like, I admit that when it comes to the stuff with LC and Justice, that's the stuff I look back on more favorably now. But like, with this whole encounter with Justice and Shiki, I'm like, dude, really? Like, really? Okay, now, with that said, Justice's little monologue about LC being the worst villain in the cosmos does still have some very revealing context that, again, I was honestly too focused on just how much I hated Justice's character to take notice of those little verbal beats in regards to the real identities of who Justice and Elsie are. But also, it provides interesting foreshadowing of just how fucked up Justice and Elsie's situation actually is. Like, the situation in regards to reasons as to why Justice hates Elsie, it is very fucked up, and it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, but at the same time, like everything else in this, there is another side of this, another side that unfortunately Justice is too consumed by his own sense of right and wrong for him to really see into. Also, to anyone thinking this fight's gonna go easy for Shiki, yeah, I got a bridge to sell you on that one. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of MMA, signing off. Later, everyone.